It is 4 o'clock Mountain Standard Time. Welcome. Come on in. This is Leslie Gustafson, and this is the Ask the Therapist show, which is brand new. Hi, Militia King. Come on in, guys. Hey, Jess. Hi, guys. Leslie Gustafson here. Thanks for the chocolate hearts. Hi from Christy. Hi, Christy. I love seeing your faces pop up. Hello, hello. Say hi. Come on in, everybody, so I can see your faces and get to know you if I don't already know you. Hello, hello, beautiful Julie. How are you? I love it. You say, come on in. Dr. Jennifer. Hey, I think it's Jennifer Fee. Yes, I just started following you too. Thank you for the share. Anybody else who wants to bring their friends or notify anybody else of this Ask the Therapist time where we will be dialoguing about all sorts of things, psychological or personal or sexual or relational or love-based or marriage-based, anxiety, depression, you name it. We tend to cover the gamut here. So welcome. Please share to others so we can help them too. Just came on to share it. Thank you. I appreciate that so much. Hi from Texas. Give me your name there, girl. Hello, hello, UPS Prime. Some of you I should know. Should I move on from my ex if she already has? It's been a month. If she has moved on and you don't look, it doesn't look like there's a lot of hope, but you're hanging on to false hope, then that's a pretty clear decision to make, and I think you already know the answer, don't you? But let me be clear about what this hour is and isn't. This is not therapy, okay, guys? I am happy to answer questions. Therapy is an altogether different thing. That is done in a confidential environment that is individually carved out for you, working on just the whole of you, and it is a certain environment that's required to do therapy. This is going to be education, insight, feedback. If I can offer some resources or direction or answer some questions, I am more than happy to do that. I just don't want you to think that you're actually in therapy here. For those of you who don't know me, and let me know if I did get your question and I answered it, Dale. So hopefully you got that. For those of you who don't know, let me know if you're new so I can tell you a little bit about myself, and then we'll take it from there. Okay, if you're new to this scope, thank you for the pink hearts. We no longer have Halloween bats, and it doesn't look like I don't know if we have baseballs anymore that we're allowed to. There is no couch here. That's right, Jessica. There is no couch here. Nevertheless, I am happy to coach. I'm happy to encourage you, support you, give you answers if I'm able to. Hi, Sabrina. Welcome. Thank you. Luscious Love. Welcome. Welcome, Trend Trader. First time. Glad you guys are here. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Leslie Gustafson. I am a women's sex and marriage therapist of 25 years. I have worked with all things psychological, but hi, Robin, but I specialize in the last 11 years around sexuality, relationships, love issues, and women's issues. However, I can address a lot of things because I'm old and I've been doing this a long time. I am also the Fox Denver's marriage and sex therapist here. You can see me on Fox Denver, Colorado's Everyday Show this Friday. That'll be fun. I will probably do a scope, backstage scope like I did last time, because they're just learning how to do Periscope there in the studio. So you can tune in on Friday. I'll be talking about, you know, that challenging thing that we do when we get in a conflict with our partner where we bring up the old issues. I'm going to talk about why that happens, why it needs to stop, and how to stop it, because it doesn't help communication. Thanks for the green hearts. So I'm on TV. For the last 2.5 years, Jessica, I've had the privilege of being Fox Denver's marriage and sex therapist. It's been a blast. It's been a challenge. It's been a lot of things. Do you give dating advice? I certainly can. I haven't dated for years, but I stay abreast of what's going on. I actually help people. Actually have a number of people after divorces right now who are trying to date again and start back up. Thanks, Trade Winds. Do I know your name and I just should know your handle already? It's harder when there's handles. So anyway, where was I? Match.com. Yes, Match.com. A lot of people do Match.com. That's one strategy. It can be, yeah, good for you. Did it really, Julie? You know, I hear that more and more, that Match.com works. It's not always an easy journey because you have to apparently kiss a lot of frogs before you find your prince, it seems. But talk about confusing dating post-divorce is ugh. Okay, let's talk about dating. Let's do it. You were married for 32 years and you're trying to get back to dating as well, Cindy. Awesome. So let's talk about dating and why it is. Okay, you're looking at somebody right now who is also in, you didn't probably know this, a second marriage. So dating, it's tough, but it can be fun. So dating after divorce can be really challenging. One, because the biggest issue I think is the old truly resolved before you venture into starting anew? And when you start to date, it may be true for you, but it may not be for the person that you are starting to date. A lot of times there's a lot of unresolved issues, loss, guilt, that isn't all the way worked through. Now that's not to say that it's perfectly worked through. But you really need to be pretty ready to start anew. Dating sites are a lot of guys looking for hookups. I hear that report, Cindy. That can be possible. I tend to think places to date are around mutual interests, to do meetups, to find singles groups that are around mutual interests. Match.com is a good way to sort. You can sort pretty well. And here's what I advise with Match.com. And Julie, if you're still on here, you can tell me if this is how it went for you. But you can do a lot of sorting without ever meeting. And that's kind of the advantage of online dating, is that while, yeah, there are some posers and people who are going to tell you big lies and fancy stories, but you get an opportunity to talk, to email, to sort, to answer evaluative questions, to discover if there's like-mindedness, mutual values, beyond the, you know, are they cute or aren't they, because you can get them in the picture of them. Helpful for practice to get back into communication with men. Yeah, and what I tell a lot of my women who are just starting to date, that it's really about just practicing again, by getting used to and exploring. And if you're somebody who got into a relationship early and never did a lot of dating, of course, years ago dating was different, then you may be out of practice with how to just get to know guys, just to get comfortable, just to start engaging in conversation like you would a friend. Essentially just get out there and practice again without a lot of initial intention. You're sorting, you're evaluating, you're practicing. And sometimes you end up, you know, finding somebody that you at least want to pursue further relationship with. But I would say, you know, really lower the expectations and really have it be about practicing and trying it out. We need to just go telling these guys what not to do on profiles. It's so consuming. Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that, Cindy. Yeah, I don't know if you're having a lot of luck with it or if it's mostly trying. But yeah, the profiles. So we have quite a few people. Put a thumbs up if you're actually somebody who's dating or in the process of dating, or thinking about dating, or out of an old relationship going into a new one. Give me a little thumbs up, because it'd be nice to know who my audience is here and topically where we want to go. You are in a you're in a new relationship, out of a relationship and into one, Julie. You're out of a relationship and going and practicing now and trying to find somebody, Cindy. Also, Luscious Love, whose name I wish I knew. 5 years post-divorce. Okay, so you've had a little bit of breathing room. Hopefully you're on the other side of that, Jess. 4 years already, though. Yeah, I was married. My first marriage was for 7 years. I actually ended up dating a colleague not long after my divorce, and I am currently married to him. And he is co-author with me in the book Amazing Intimacy. So sometimes, guys, it really truly goes super great. the second time around. In fact, way better than it did for me the first time around, for sure. But I certainly learned a tremendous amount through my first marriage, the pain of my first marriage, the issues there, and I grew up a lot relationally. There is hope. There's definitely hope, Jess. Any other dating questions? It takes time. Find the mutual interest. Keep it easy. Keep it friendshipy. Keep it safe. I'm new. Can you show me the book again? Sure, I'd be happy to. What a cute smile you have too. This is Amazing Intimacy. Create a spectacular marriage in and out of the bedroom. My husband and I have 62 years between us in private practice, helping couples, men and women. He was, to be fair, the primary writer of the book. Glad you got it. And I was the help. My specialization is in sexuality. I'm specifically trained in that, so I was the help in that. Cool. And that's a really big book, but it's a how-to guide for love, sex, and passion. It's a great resource. We've been told it's pretty dense, not dense like dull, but like thick of information, so it's stuff to chew on. And people tend to like to jump around to different parts and just learn and grow around whatever applies. So let's see who else is bold enough to ask another question. I see we got some people here. Hi, Flyby Denny. Yay for the people who are starting to date again. We've had one question about kind of some guidelines about how to date. Do you feel like I answered that, guys, or do we want to talk more specifically about dating than I mentioned? Young marriage under 10 years, and our only issue is his mother. Well, if it's not one thing, it's his mother, right? Okay, so do we want to address the mother issue? Tell me about what the difficulty is with the mother. It really can be, particularly moms who are intrusive or over-involved tend to be a real problem. Let me get to the sex question. How soon should sex happen in the dating? That is going to be really based on your own perspective around and your own moral value system around that. Even, so it kind of depends where you're coming from. If we're going to have a strictly biblical point of view, then we're waiting until after marriage. If we're talking about, if that's not coloring the picture, what I like to tell people is that the physical should come fairly well into it when there's plenty of commitment, there's strong emotional connection, great friendship, you have fleshed out a lot of the mutual interest and moral value issues, and you're going to be moving forward. Sex is incredibly bonding, and you don't want to bond with somebody too quickly and then feel overly attached when you're not even sure about them yet. So that's kind of my thinking around that. I want to start as friends first with guys. They say that's fine until they make a move, and I'm not. Yeah, and so the value system around that really has to be identified and explored. Yeah, and the old adage that we've always heard about before is that, the women are the person who put the brakes on. Well, that's sometimes the truth. It's not always the truth. But, you can really kind of sort out, if you're not all following. I think it's Melissa Ledger, Leger, who talks about dating a lot on here. She's great. She talks about gumball love. Essentially that if you're just getting into a relationship with a guy who it's really for quick fix, for attention, that he's not really invested in developing real relationship or has the maturity to do so, that he might not be your guy. But you can follow Melissa Ledger. She's got great stuff on dating. I prefer to wait, but guys don't understand that. And you know what? And I know this sounds really old-fashioned. The right guy will understand that. And I know that from personal experience. And if you are really looking like you're you're each who you want to be with, then it's probably a part of the sorting that's going on and whether or not they're the right one for you. I feel like dating is more difficult these days. I feel like dating, I think it is more difficult, Brandy. I think it's a lot looser. The rules are a lot less clear than 10, 20, 30 years ago when it was a lot clearer. Oh, I missed a good one about sexual relationships. Anyway, flip that one back up there again if you want me to respond. But tell me, Brandy, what you're finding difficulty about, the difficulty, why it's harder. What's your experience? Hi, Melissa. I was just talking about you. We are talking about dating, of all things, and how hard dating is, and how so often the women here, anyway, hey, are talking about the difficulty with setting their own physical intimacy limits, and where that isn't always appreciated or respected. Is there a way to flirt without sending mixed messages? There is, and I have to tell you, Cindy, if you go to my website, authenticandtrue.com, okay, here's the website, authenticandtrue.com. There is a video on there that I did for Channel 9 News here on the art of flirting. Okay, so that may be of real interest to you. There is a way to flirt. I would tend to say that if you're overly sexually provocative, you are sending the wrong message. And we know from research that men tend to attribute sexuality to flirting more than women do. So there's a bias in that direction for the receiver. So hopefully that'll help you out. Yeah, the art of flirting. That was for Channel 9 News. They had a love week last Valentine's Day and brought me on to talk about flirting. And there are some tricks there. I find that in a relationship, I'm not as sexual. Any tips how to keep myself interested? I would have to know a lot more about that. Longevity plays a role. Fantasy thinking plays a role in that. If you've been in a committed, real relationship before where that didn't happen, that could tell us something. Sexual interest, sexual desire is incredibly complicated for women, and a lot of things can create difficulty with sustaining interest and keeping desire up over time. So I wish I could answer that straight up, but it would depend on a lot there. Loss of interest. For women, and many times can be loss of connection because things are going awry, and your interest is a barometer of it. Shouldn't feel like a job, could be the wrong guy. That's great feedback. You give great advice. Thank you, Cindy. Thanks. I love doing this. I did this for the first time last week, and I enjoyed it so much, and I so appreciated the honesty and transparency and the courageous, the courage to ask questions that I could be of help to. And if you don't feel comfortable in this kind of forum, because it is an online, obviously we're scoping. It's not scoping to the world. I don't have location services on, so it is a little bit of a controlled environment. Hi, Juggling Mom. Welcome. If you haven't shared this broadcast out yet, and if you would be so kind, and or if you haven't followed me before, you can tap the little Perry dude. I need to flirt with my husband. I think it'll help. We don't have sex enough. Well, guess what? You're both responsible for keeping love alive. He is, as well as you are. And I think when two people are conscientiously keeping sexuality, love, and romance on the forefront, that mutual pursuit can really keep love alive and keep sexuality possible. It's when disconnection, pursuit, backburnering of sexuality and other things totally getting in the way that it can be really hard to keep consistent sexual intimacy going on. I don't know if that helped you. Hopefully it did. Luscious Love, thanks for inviting. So we've talked about sexual desire. So how to coerce him? What I would, if you haven't already, I would sit down with him and have a heart-to-heart about how important it is for you. And I would try to get a beat on him with regards to what is going on with him in the sexual intimacy arena. It sounds like you see decreased interest or lessened interest on his part. And you need to kind of get at, what's going on with him. Is he stressed out? Is he overworked? Is he, what is he needing in that? It may or may not be about you at all. I think it's easy for women to personalize it. But I would encourage you to talk honestly together about what you want. What do you want to be happening in your sexual life together? Does that typically happen some with age? Desire is very fluctuating and mercurial, particularly for women, meaning it can wax and wane and be very affected. It does shift during life stages. Age can produce some changes in function, changes in desire, but it usually can be worked with in a transparent and open relationship where you're working together to always cultivate love and sexuality as a team, as a priority. So yeah, there can be lots of changes all the time in sexual functioning and desire and interest. So it becomes kind of a work in progress. One of the issues, of the many issues that you talk about in relationship. Hello, Leslie. Hello, subtle soul. Don't beat yourself up. Yes, Jeremiah, that's right. God has a plan for you, a future and a hope, not to hurt or harm, but to give you great things. And if you are a believer, that is his promise to you. So yeah, amen, Melissa. Keep the hope. That's right. That's right. I think I've missed some questions. Please feel free to shoot them back up. Can the long-term effects of porn be reversed? Absolutely. This is a specialization we work with all of the time. Sexual addiction is my husband's, one of his primary population that he works for. Is it true that women hit their sexual peak at the age 30? I can tell you absolutely not. Women actually in maturity, and when they keep growing sexually, I can tell you that it has just gotten better. It gets better and better for a lot of women. That has certainly been the case for me. So no, sexual peak, absolutely not. There is certainly more hormone functionality that helps drive it. So the physiological hormonal piece can be more active in earlier ages. Yeah, was wondering about that saying, right? Wasn't it like guys peak is 19 and women is 30? I think that's a sexual myth. Hey, Nikki, welcome from Australia. Welcome, welcome. What time is it in Australia, Nikki? I wonder. Wow, I'm getting all kinds of hope for the future tonight. Good. That's the point. My mission in life, guys, is to help you create amazing intimacy in your life, with yourself, in your relationships, and if you want, with God. So, that's my greatest heart. That's why the more I can get my message out. It's 9:23 a.m. So happy breakfast and coffee time to you, Nikki. So you're the next morning, Australia. So they're kind of on the opposite side of what we're doing. We're happy hour dinner, they're breakfast hour. Hi, Mama Bear. Thanks for joining. Other questions that I might have overlooked. I try to go quickly here, but as you know, it's easy. Hi, welcome, pretty lady. It's hard to sometimes catch all the questions. So far we've talked about dating, how that can be really hard in this current age. We talked about some strategies for dating. We also heard some how it's really worked for people and how a couple of people are still struggling with dating, but get the intimacy with God first. If you're a believer, that's absolutely prerequisite. And you want to look for a guy who has that same value, Jess, for sure, because that's going to really be a lot of glue for you. How can I get my boyfriend to communicate better without seeming annoying? Ask from your heart. Tell him, this works, I think, a lot, to tell your guy that you really want to know more about him, that you think he's interesting, or you're just curious about him. If it's been a time of separation where you haven't seen him, let him know you've missed him. Let him know what you've missed. A lot of guys struggle with emotional expression. That can be because they're not connected up to their own emotionality, or they've never learned. But there's usually a growth process for most men in self-expression. Women too, learning how to express themselves. So I would, instead of starting the conversation with you need to talk to me, or you never talk to me, or I feel like I don't know you. You never let me in. You might want to start with that I statement, right? And let him know how you want to know him, how you miss knowing more about him. I usually start with I've missed him. That's great. That's great. And you might ask him, you know, what's difficult about talking? If he hasn't already answered that, he could know. Hey, thank you for all those hearts, you guys. I totally love the hearts. I'm trying to get to 75,000. That's my new goal. I started scoping 8 weeks ago today. I jumped on. This is about my You're welcome, girl. This is about my 25th scope. My husband and I do the Amazing Intimacy show here on Sundays as well, and we do that on this scope. And we've been talking about all sorts of things, and all of those periscopes can be found on our website as well. I could hit that tonight. Yay! You know, people have been so generous to us here. It seems like we've gathered about 100 new followers a week, and I'm just so grateful for that, you guys, because I have so much I want to share with you and help you grow in and build you up in and encourage you in and all of that. So thanks for the followers, and thanks for the hearts. Super cool. Any other questions? Questions that have been on your heart? Talked a little bit about sexual desire and interest. I love that you're a Christian. I love that I'm a Christian too. I am one of, there's not a lot of us, but I'm one of the specifically trained Christian sex therapists in the nation. I went to the only Christian sex therapy program that exists back east. That's the Institute of Sexual Wholeness, which is where I did my training, and that is faith-based for sure with a Christian perspective. I do see folks from all faiths or no faiths. I work hard at, most importantly, being a loving and compassionate person and an excellent clinician. That's really been the driver, because I want to do good work for God. Did your husband go to a faith-based program? He did. He went to University of Oregon, and then he went to Biola University out in California. I went to UCLA, Chapman University, and then Institute for Sexual Wholeness. So just a whole lot of school going on there. And we are licensed in California. We're also licensed in Colorado. And we coach by Skype, nationwide and worldwide. So go Bruins! Yay, Julie, my sorority sister's on here. Go Bruins indeed, Kappa girlfriend. So anyone else? Other questions, concerns? Something you want to share? Something you're curious about? Sex, depression, anxiety, relationships, dating, eating disorders. Hi from Australia. Thank you for joining. Nikki's here from Australia too. I don't know if you know Nikki, or if she referred you here, but I saw that you recently followed me, so thank you for that mindset. I don't know your first name, but I'm so glad that you're here. Okay, yeah. It's kind of like, do you know that person in Maine? No, yeah. My wife won't have sex with me. Not ever. And what's your name, Overtime One? Not ever, or less often than you want. If it's not at all, tell me more. Tell me your name and tell me a little bit more about that. That's an unfortunate position to be in indeed, and can be a very painful one. No. Okay. Sexless marriages are very, very painful, and sexless marriages can be very difficult to rekindle. Hi, Kurt. Thanks for giving your name. So she doesn't want to have sex ever. Tell me why, and that will help me kind of sort out what's going on there. Anyway, but sexless marriages definitely can be rekindled. It can be really hard, but it can be done. Pop in and pop out, guys, to tap hearts. Thank you. Subtle Soul, what's your name? You're super nice, and I want to know who you are, like I probably already do. Yeah, you're so nice. Thank you. Thank you so much. We're faith-based. I had to jump under scopes at first because I'm single Christian until I figured me out. Fair enough. You know, I would be subtle. I would be afraid of jumping online with my personal issues until I had a better sense of a sex therapist too. You know, our field is very broad, and you know, it's not all good stuff out there. I hate to say it, but all the education out there is faulty, myth-based, and not always accurate, and not always healthy or wholesome. That's why I do what I do, because there's a real need in this sexually saturated culture that doesn't have a lot of wisdom and knowledge around sexual issues. So that's exactly why I do what I do. False promises out there. There are false promises. There are myths. You know, the truth of it is, and I've taken polls and done personal surveys, it is the rare person. I'm glad you are nice to her and you do everything around the house. That's probably helping, but I don't know what the issue is for her, Kurt, on what the no is about. I would have to know more. So I lost my train of thought. That's easy for me to do. A lot of people, most of us, when I've polled people, it's the rare person who had a really thorough and great sexual education throughout all the different life stages of their life. Maybe you had one sex talk, maybe you saw one school program, maybe you had a couple conversations with your parents, but it is very rare for someone to come from a place where they've been well educated sexually, which is really unfortunate because there's all sorts of information about sex in our culture now because it is such a hot, big, huge topic. And with the increase of technology, it's everywhere. Media and technology just drive that topic, drive it all the time. It's just everywhere. And so people end up getting education in the wrong places a lot of the time because, hey, of course we're sexually curious and we are designed and we have deep longings for sexual intimacy. So we do want to know stuff and we want to have a great intimate relationship with our partners. And so we're all a little bit needy in this culture, I think, about getting great information so that we can grow and we can have really rich, intimate, amazing lives together. Other questions? I'm sorry I can't totally answer the problem there, Kurt, whose wife doesn't want to have sex. A difference in desire is super common. In fact, every couple has a difference of desire. But when sex shuts down altogether, we're looking at something, probably some kind of injury, some kind of psychological issue, some kind of functionality or change that could have occurred. But there's a problem to solve in that when someone just no longer wants to have sex. It doesn't just happen out of the blue or out of context, usually, mostly. Hi. Hi, M. Di. Thanks for joining. Any other questions, guys? I'll wait for a second. Hello, hello. If there isn't, we've probably run full circle here with what you all wanted to talk about. As a recap, we've talked about dating, we've talked about sexual desire, we've talked about how to date, we've talked a little bit about divorce, not a lot. We've talked about perimenopause and hormonal changes tend to dampen one's enthusiasm. They really do. And I'll talk more about that, perimenopause. What's the time gap to know if there's sort of a problem? Sexually, I think a sexless marriage by research is considered, it's 10 to 15 times a year is considered a sexless marriage. Couples need to negotiate consistent sexuality that works for them. Every couple is different. The average amount of sexual events per week is 1.7. So that's the average that most couples are having sex 1.7 times. I don't know what they're doing in the 0.7, but you can, use your imagination. Let's talk about perimenopause and menopause. Are super big issues when it comes to sexuality. We know that perimenopause can start as early as 37. Some people go into early menopause. That's more rare, but the process of perimenopause starts as early as 37, and there's lots of changes, lots of fluctuations for most women, which can affect anxiety, sleep patterns, stamina, energy, concentration, fatigue, I'm glad you guys are talking among yourselves. Changes in mood, decreased desire or increased desire. It can go in either direction. But it's a little bit like we talked about earlier in the scope, which is that there's lots of changes all of the time in the sexual arena for men and women. But if you keep it as a work in progress, it can be remediable. Desire, interesting. Did that help? Who had the perimenopause, menopausal? Yes, comment. What are we talking about here? Hi, Nicole. We're talking about a lot of different things. This is Ask the Therapist scope. We were colleagues. We were both marriage therapists, Jess, who had a friendship and then got to know each other more and more. And he is like, soulmate. People hate that term, but he just really is. He was a tremendous godsend. And God had a lot of plans for us in helping marriages. So the scope is about Ask the Therapist, Nicole. You can ask me anything. I'm a marriage and sex therapist. I have a 25-year history of dealing with all sorts of topics that are concerning psychology, relationships, love. And so far we've been talking about dating and sexual desire and some perimenopause and menopause and flirting and how to find the right guy, how to choose guys. We talked a little bit about faith. I'm forgetting all the topics. So that's what's going on here. Hi. I've seen you before, Renan. Tell me your first name. Any other thoughts for a premarital sex? Thoughts for a premarital sex? Oh no. That's a big topic. Again, we talked a little bit about how your moral value system may or may not affect out of marriage, your choice to have out of marriage sex. My experience is that for those who had such a super strong band around sex until they were married, have a lot of difficulty getting passion going once they're married. If the relationship is too rigid and passion to some degree isn't allowed for in the dating relationship, it's really hard to get things passion filled after marriage if sex has not been a part of it. Most couples have premarital sex. I'm scared to have sex before marriage. I feel I'm going to hell if I do. I don't think that's true. That's not biblical. You are not going to hell. I know enough about that to know that it's not true. That's not who God is. He is not a God of condemnation. We are all sinners. Forgiveness is readily available all of the time. What are some ways to spice up your sex life? There's lots of ways to spice it up. You have great imaginations. Start with your imagination. That's the first key, is start with your imaginations together and start talking about, what do we want our sex life to look like? What do we need in it? What do we want to do? What isn't incorporated that we could try out? Get a good book. That's why there's a confession. Get a good book for ideas if you need it. But really, when you're talking together about how to spice it up, there's lots of ways to go. And in fact, if you go to my website, that's a great question, I just forgot. We have a free 20 tips and tricks for keeping passion alive available there. That's our free gift to you. That could help. There's some spice in that for sure. And the website is authenticandtrue.com. 20 tips and tricks for keeping passion alive or spicing it up. Anyone else? That was almost too easy. Lots of creative ways. Take a bubble bath. That's just an easy one. What about you guys? You guys have any great things that you've spiced up your marriages with? I don't have to, you got good stuff here too, I'm sure, if you're willing to share. Thanks for the purple hearts. Any questions that I didn't answer or didn't answer well enough for you or thoroughly? What's a good age to get married? It's very variable. It depends on the individuals involved, the maturity there, what the couple is wanting. I think it's really helpful if you get through that identity developing stage, which is usually till about mid-20s, late 20s, a little bit later for men than women. Maturity and identity development are really helpful to have before marriage. If that answers your question. Hi, Jackie May, welcome. We got some people in the house, people coming, people going. Any questions for this Ask the Therapist hour? And any questions I didn't answer enough? Would you consider doing a scope for parents, how to present a healthy view of sexuality? I would be happy to, Holly. And I have done that talk before, and it's on our website. Trying to see, I did that for Fox News here. So that video is on our website, authenticandtrue.com. I'm trying to see if I did an article on it recently. But yeah, I would love to talk about that. That's such a great topic and such an important topic. In a nutshell, we need to be educating our children from very early on in a developmentally appropriate way, but it needs to be a part of the conversation and dialogue throughout childhood. Opinions on same-sex relationships. It's a super big topic, super hot topic in our, I couldn't do it justice here, my opinions on it. They are, they are happening. Same-sex relationships are a real thing, and my position is one that we need to be providing love and compassion, help and support, and just like any other relationship. But if you're asking me a different question than that, then you can make it clearer. But if we're talking about the theology of it, that's a really big topic. I have a lot to say about it, but this is probably not the right forum for it. Thanks for the purple hearts. You're just rocking those purple hearts, and I super appreciate it. Thank you so much. So give me a thumbs up if you're still here and you still have any questions. Otherwise, I think I'm going to wrap it up, because if there's aren't any questions, I think we've covered an awful lot of ground. Because we just got another joiner. Thumbs up if you're still here or if you have a question. Thumbs up. Nicole's still here. Nicole's in the house. Right on. Advice on best way to support a spouse who's going through a difficult time like grief or depression. Oh, you know, it's so hard when somebody is going through grief or depression. I certainly have before. My husband has before. I would want to make sure that their grief hasn't turned into something that's more clinical, like profound depression. Some of the depression signs to watch for in grief are changes of appetite or sleep, lethargy, isolation, crying all of the time, not as functional, not as concentrating. Hi, Kim. Yay. Glad you're here. You've been here, but thanks for still being here. Make sure that the grief hasn't become depression and that there might be some therapeutic help that's needed or counseling. But as a spouse, certainly be loving and compassionate, but you also don't want to engage in chronic dwelling around the pain of it, the loss of it, the grief of it. Sometimes it can end up coloring the whole culture of the marriage if that's all you're ever talking about. So be loving and compassionate, but also you can have your own limits around how much you can or can't talk about it, because it can bring you down too, even though you want to be supportive and loving. Having them get support in other arenas can be helpful too. Oh, I missed a question from Nicole. Sorry about that. Yeah, grief and loss are really hard. I've been through numerous losses. It can be life-changing. It can also be incredibly, ultimately clarifying about what's most important in this life. That's been the gift in the losses that I've experienced, is that it has really helped my purpose become more clear. I have a question that's not about the scope. It's not an Ask the Therapist question? Okay. Thanks. So helpful. I hope it was helpful. It's really challenging. I think people, when I sometimes tell people to schedule their grieving, set aside time. He might want to set aside time one time every day where he can devote to being sad and focusing on it. But if it's starting to fill the whole day up, that he can just remind himself, I'm going to schedule my grief and I'm going to deal with it later, so that there's structure around the grieving and it doesn't just bleed into everything else in life. You're welcome to ask that question, Nicole, or you can direct message me at Twitter. It's just not a part about the marriage or sex part. That's fine. We can talk about other issues, psychological issues. If my expertise doesn't fit, then I'll just let you know that. So go ahead and shoot. Scheduling grief can be really helpful. Okay, I'm not seeing any questions. If you are, really late, but if you're a replay viewer, thanks for watching. And feel free to tap the screen and share me as well. I should have said that at the front. Is it possible to have PTSD after a death? Is that after a death? Yes, absolutely. Absolutely, PTSD. If the experience for you is beyond your normal experience, how much schooling does it take? If I'll get to that, PTSD, if it's outside of your range of normal experience, is where we start to define what makes something traumatic for somebody. The stressor itself, the traumatic event itself, can be highly variable, okay? We originally thought of PTSD, of course, with war veterans or those who have seen really heinous, violent things. But we know that PTSD can also be for those who've gone through more what we consider typical life events. Deaths would be one of them. Sure, you can direct message me on Twitter at Leslie Gustafson. Yeah, at Leslie Gustafson. And there was another question that I missed, because this is a little bit like tapping your head and rubbing your tummy, and I'm not really a ginormous multitasker. Okay, Nicole, feel free. Yeah, absolutely. PTSD is a real thing around a lot of different stressors. A lot of people struggle with it, and all the symptoms: hypervigilance, anxiety. You know, the list is long for the kind of symptoms that PTSD can. About the schooling, yes. Okay, in order to be a master's level therapist, you need to do undergraduate school, and then you need to do graduate school. If you want to get a PhD, if you want to be a doctor, you have to go 2 to 3 more years after that. I did undergraduate, graduate, and then postgraduate work in sexuality. I am a licensed marriage and family therapist, but most therapists need to be at least a master's level, and then you get a whole bunch of hours before you're able to sit for licensure. In the state of California, it was 3,500 actual hours before you could sit for the oral and written exams when I took it. And I'm also licensed here in Colorado. And Nicole's back in, and Kimberly's here, and people are coming and people are going. So that's really cool. At Leslie Gustafson. It's just my name, Leslie Gustafson on Twitter. Leslie. Well, you can see it in my profile. That's a lot of school. It is a lot of school, and I've been at this for 25 years, but as far as being a very rewarding career, it absolutely has been a tremendous gift to do this life work. It's also been extremely growthful, challenging, and just a lot of things, very, very meaningful work. And that it's what I felt called to do, so it's a blessing as well. So there's that. So lots of school. Well, thank you guys. It's been an honor and a pleasure and a privilege to connect with you. Thank you so much for the gift of your time. Thank you for being honest and transparent and willing to ask great questions. I will be doing this scope once a week. Usually it will be Wednesday or Thursday. You're welcome, Nikki. This Friday, I will scope from Fox Studios to get you to tune in so you can watch my talk there. Bye-bye. Nice meeting you. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks again for being here. And I will talk to you on Friday. So take care. Have a really great evening, or if you're in Australia, have a great day. Blessings, everyone. Thanks, Robin. Thanks, Kim. Bye-bye.